A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus reached the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and he went up into the hills. He sat there, and large crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the crippled, the blind, the dumb, and many others. These they put down at his feet, and he cured them. The crowds were astonished to see the dumb speaking, the crippled whole again, the lame walking, and the blind with their sight, and they praised the God of Israel. But Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I feel sorry for all these people. They have been with me for 3 days now, and have nothing to eat. I do not want to send them off hungry. They might collapse on the way. The disciples said to him, Where could we get enough bread in this deserted place to feed such a crowd? Jesus said to them, How many loaves have you? 7, they said, and a few small fish. Then he instructed the crowd to sit down on the ground, and he took the seven loaves and the fish, and he gave thanks and broke them, and handed them to the disciples, who gave them to the crowds. They all ate as much as they wanted, and they collected what was left of the scraps, 7 baskets full. Brothers and sisters, at the beginning of this Advent, in this first week, we hear of how caring God is to us. He takes care of every aspect of our life, and we see that here, that he spoke to reveal who is God to them, and people came in large crowds to listen. But he cared for every detail of them. He knew that many of them didn't eat for 3 days just to listen to him, and he didn't want that to go to waste because of an unneeded tragedy. Going back, they could collapse out of lack of energy. So he asks his apostles, he asks those who are responsible for the church, the ministers, what do you have to give them to eat? Notice that God continues to do that today. He has his ministers there to feed us, and that's why the church takes care of so many aspects of our lives and is the biggest feeder of the hungry, has the most hospitals to give those who need that physical help. But even more so, God says, be like that to others. In this time of Advent, when we are called to care for each other, like God gave us that example, let us remember and ask ourselves, where is our act of charity? We also heard of the bread of life, the bread that we need to fill ourselves, to sustain us, but also that spiritual bread that only Christ can give, that bread that we yearn for so much, and in this time of lockdown, we cannot get in the physical way. But know that God cares for us, and he knows that, and that's why he wants to feed us in that spiritual way, which doesn't substitute the real Eucharist. But God sends his graces to keep us on that journey until we can sustain ourselves with that Eucharist. Let us remember that, brothers and sisters. Have a blessed Wednesday, and God bless.